We wanted to find out how other artists feel about this attack on creative expression. Don Ferguson is the co-creator of the Royal Canadian Air Farce. You know his face well, his multiple faces. A show famous for pulling no punches regardless of the subject matter. And Don joins me now live in studio. What was your reaction when you heard what happened, Don?
I think my reaction was the same as most people. Initially, it was just horror and disbelief. But I quickly got to the point of thinking, you know, like for people like me and the people who were murdered, this is our job. This is what we do. And I would say that 99, maybe 95% of the people I've met who work in this field are really nice people. They're fun to be with. They're the kind of people you'd want to have dinner with because they're outspoken. They say things that are controversial. They don't mind saying things that you wouldn't want to be said in public, you know. But if we're in private, we'll have a good laugh and this kind of thing. And they're just delightful. They're bright, and the fact that these kinds of delightful people and talents would be obliterated simply because someone didn't like what they said I found it really struck home, and partly at one point I felt actually frightened. I thought this is scary. You know, that you know, you think, because on Air Farce we frequently got mail, especially after the internet came into existence. You know how it works, how quickly that works. If we did something that people didn't like, so we heard from various religious groups. And
various religious groups?
Well, you know, Roger Abbott and I were both raised as Catholics, so we liked making fun of the Pope. You know, but it never occurred to us that that you know, one of our Jesuit teachers was going to step out from behind an arras and shoot us. You know,
Do you think it puts a chill? Do you think it puts a chill?
Well, I think it already has in the way people deal with Islam. I really do. I think people, I'll give you an example of what happened to us. We did something in the early, just shortly after the turn of the century on the TV show that mocked something, and I can't remember what it was. Well, we got
something
thousands.
To do with Islam?
Oh, yeah. And we got literally thousands of vile messages from all over North America. Clearly, somebody pushed a button and said, you know, everybody send an email to this show.
Vile? What do you mean by vile?
Threatening us with death, calling us pigs, and calling us something like, I don't know, white meat eaters or something, and that they would literally, you know, they were going to bury us, they were going to crush us, they were going to. It was unbelievable.
Like death threats. Okay.
Oh yeah.
So did you call the police?
No, because there were thousands of them, and they were coming from all over. Like, it wasn't like, you know, you couldn't really take it seriously in a sense because there were so many.
What do you mean? Like, oh, you think that somebody put?
Oh, well, somebody organized.
Campaign.
Somebody said, you know, yeah, it was a campaign. But what amazed me was the passion that was expressed by these individuals who some of them had never seen the show. In fact, many of them were from the United States. Or you know, they didn't know who we were, but the anger inside them was really scary. We were very careful afterwards. We tried not to shy away, but it does put a chill in you. Yeah. And I think that's the long-term fear that we all as citizens of a democracy ought to be most frightened of, is not that somebody else could get killed, but that we are going to start cutting back the way we express ourselves, putting kind of a filter or a muffler or a muzzle on our values.
Yeah.
I think that personally, that satire and outrageous comedy and this kind of thing is what makes our society fun to live with. It gives it its vitality, its vivacity. It makes it interesting to be alive. And
sometimes these magazines and publications or shows like yours can draw attention to an issue in a way that other media can't.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, years ago, when I was much younger, I started out actually making documentary films, and I made a few for CBC, for the old Agricultural and Resources Department. And I was also doing at the time Air Farce on radio. We'd started radio, this is in the 1970s. And I realized at the time, the reason I totally shifted away from working in the other fields to comedy was I realized it was much easier to get at the truth when you weren't hampered by facts. Now, I know this sounds ridiculous. I know this
always been my motto.
but it's true. But the thing is, one of the reasons there's so much debate about a lot of things is that facts can be used all kinds of different ways. You know, anybody who studied ratings books for TV shows, or for radio programs, you see these people are dead last, and so somebody will go through that and they'll say, "We are #1 with 5-year-olds."
Right, right,
so
exactly.
That's what comes
I
out.
know what you mean. But given the fact that there is this chill, and some people will feel it definitely, you're right, there's no reason or no use in denying that people will think twice, especially when dealing with a particular religion. Right. But do you think that we should have the discipline to stand up and do it anyway? For example, there's this controversy about whether people should be running the cartoons of the Prophet Muhammad. A lot of individuals running them online, a lot of newspapers now running them to stand in solidarity with Charlie Hebdo. What do you think?
I think that's a tough one. I really do. On the one hand, those are our values, and I think we should be free to publish all this stuff. I mean, this is the way we get old laws changed, and we get things that probably a lot of people don't like, things like gay marriage or legalized pot, or it's the reason that James Joyce's Ulysses got published. It was somebody went to court and fought it and said, this is not an obscenity, it's a great work of literature. Right. And so you have to keep pushing the boundaries and testing the boundaries. I think it expands the role and the range of human experience. But on the other hand, I think it's questionable from all different kinds of ways to just gratuitously insult somebody. I mean, if you love your dog, and for me to come over and say, what an ugly piece of junk your dog is, or, what's the point of that? You know what I mean? I mean, I'm not comparing, a religion to anything like that.
You're saying,
But why would you? I mean, it may not offend us if, as a general society, if we make fun of the Pope, or we make fun of rabbis, or we make fun of whatever. But if there's a group that is mortally offended when you mention it, why would you go out of your way to do it?
But here's
that's kind of the other side of the issue.
Here's the point, though. If you can't do it, or if there's a law against it,
that's
then where do you stop?
Oh yeah, no. I'm not saying that there should be a law against it. And in fact, I think as I said earlier, the long-term fear I would have is that the chill would come from within. That news organizations would say, well, let's spike that story. Let's not run that, because we may upset somebody who's got a gun. Basically, that's what it's become down to. And I must confess, I do not understand people for whom the answer to drawings and words is bullets. Like, what kind of wimp are you? How few are your resources that the only way you can answer that is with weapons? I mean, have you no words of your own? Have you no talent? Can you not enlist people with some ability to make fun back?
We'll leave it there.
Yes.
Don Ferguson from CBC's Royal Canadian Air Farce, thank you so much.
They've been on the French police radar 10 years for their history of jihadist support. But the manhunt for Sharif and Saeed Kouachi started yesterday with a trail of blood and clues. Tonight on The National.